In today's narrative, we're taking a trip back in time, stepping right into the vibrant, legendary court of King Krishnadevaraya. We're going to look at a classic tale, really a timeless one, about art, a massive ego, and most importantly, accountability. It's the story of Tenali Rama and the incomplete painting. Let's head straight into the royal court and meet the guy who starts this whole mess. Picture this. A renowned, highly celebrated painter struts into the grand royal court, and he doesn't just ask for a commission. No, he throws down the gauntlet. With his chest puffed out, he looks right at the king and declares, "Your Majesty, I am such a great artist that no one can find a flaw in my paintings." I mean, wow, talk about an opening statement, right? This immediately establishes a massive level of arrogance. He's not just confident, he is literally claiming absolute, unquestionable perfection. And when you claim perfection in a room full of people, you are setting a ridiculously high, almost impossible bar for yourself. Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly how this bold claim plays out. Step one is the setup. The king, who's clearly intrigued and honestly probably a little amused by this immense confidence, assigns the man a massive wall mural right there in the palace. Step two, the painter gets to work. He labors for days, mixing his colors, sweeping his brushes across this vast stone canvas. Finally, he finishes. And then we hit step three, which is a classic psychological trap. The whole court gathers around the finished piece and just blindly showers him with praise. Why? Because the artist came in with such a huge reputation and such overwhelming confidence that the courtiers don't even really look at the art critically. They are completely swayed by the echo chamber of his reputation. They just see what they're told to see, a flawless masterpiece. But right into the middle of this echo chamber steps our ultimate disruptor. You see, while everyone else is busy nodding along, clapping, and reinforcing the artist's ego, Tenali Rama takes a step back. He takes a long, calm, and highly observant look at the mural. He isn't buying into the boasting, and he certainly isn't swayed by the crowd's blind applause. He just looks at the work for what it actually is. And right there, amidst all the beautiful colors and sweeping lines, Tenali Rama spots a glaring, undeniable flaw that everyone else was simply too intimidated to notice. He steps forward. The whispering court goes completely quiet. He points to a very specific, awkwardly empty section of the wall and asks a simple, piercing question that completely shatters the illusion of perfection. Where is the back part of the horse? It's a brilliant pattern interrupt. Notice he doesn't attack the artist's character. He just points out an objective, physical reality on the canvas. The artist had painted this magnificent horse, but completely neglected to paint the back half of the animal. It just ended abruptly. And Matt, this brilliantly illustrates how unchecked arrogance reacts when it is finally challenged. Instead of stepping back, looking at his work and saying something like, "Oh my goodness, you're right, I completely missed that," the painter gets incredibly defensive. He aggressively leans on what we'll call the painter's defense. He actually replies that the back of the horse is simply outside the frame of the painting. He claims that it's the viewer's responsibility to use their own imagination to fill in the missing elements. I mean, it is an utterly absurd excuse. It is an absolute masterclass in deflecting responsibility rather than just admitting a simple mistake. He essentially tries to make it the viewer's fault for not being imaginative enough to see what he forgot to paint. Let's move to and see how this builds across our timeline. We had day one, which was that arrogant boast to the king. We just experienced day two, the mural reveal, and that incredibly flimsy excuse from the painter. And that brings us to day three. You see, Tenali Rama doesn't argue with the painter on day two. He doesn't get into a shouting match about the rules of art. He just gives a knowing smile and walks away. Because Tenali Rama knows that the absolute best way to expose a flawed argument isn't to debate it, but to demonstrate it. So, bright and early on day three, Tenali Rama arrives at the court carrying his very own canvas. The entire royal court gathers around, buzzing with anticipation. What on earth has the great wit of the court painted? Tenali Rama confidently unveils his masterpiece. And what is it? It's a canvas featuring only a single, solitary eye. That's it. There's no face, no head, no body, no background, just one painted eye staring right back at the audience. The dramatic irony in the room right now is just palpable, because everyone watching knows exactly what Tenali Rama is up to. Except, of course, for the arrogant painter. The painter takes one look at Tenali's canvas and absolutely bursts into mocking laughter. He thinks it's a pathetic joke. Falling perfectly into the trap that was just laid out for him, the painter points at the canvas and asks, "What is this? Where is the rest of the face?" Boom. Without even realizing it, the painter has just validated Tenali Rama's original critique from the day before. He's standing there demanding to see the rest of the subject, completely abandoning his own rule about the viewer's imagination. And here is the masterful checkmate. Yesterday, the painter's defense was to tell the audience to understand the rest of the horse through your imagination. Today, Tenali looks the laughing painter dead in the eye and replies, "The rest of the face is in your imagination." The sheer brilliance of it is stunning. The entire court erupts in laughter. Tenali Rama used the painter's own flawed, defensive logic right back against him, trapping the arrogant artist completely in a cage of his own making. The impact of that moment was profound. The painter had this sudden, very harsh and very public realization. He was humbled instantly. King Krishnadevaraya praised Tenali Rama for his incredibly quick wit, but more importantly, a crucial lesson was cemented in the court that day. Yes, imagination absolutely has a beautiful and necessary place in art, but, and this is the critical distinction, it cannot be weaponized as a flimsy excuse to avoid basic responsibility for your work. You can't just leave a job half-finished and tell the client to imagine the rest of it. So the crucial point is this: talent requires humility. It really doesn't matter how skilled you are, how famous you are, or how flawless you believe your track record to be. The moment your talent becomes decoupled from humility, you stop growing. You stop seeing your own errors. The painter's great talent was ultimately overshadowed by his inability to simply say, "Hey, I made a mistake." True mastery of any craft requires the modesty to accept that you are still entirely capable of leaving the back half of the horse off the wall. Let's pull this out of the 16th century royal court for a second and look at how it applies to us right now, as professionals, creators, and leaders. Think about how often we see this today. On one hand, we see people hiding shortcomings with complex logic. Someone makes a mistake on a project, a product launch fails, or a piece of code is broken. And instead of owning it, they bury the failure in corporate jargon, complex excuses, or they blame external factors. They essentially tell us to imagine the success that's outside the frame. On the other hand, we have honestly accepting our mistakes. It's much harder in the short term, but it is literally the only path that actually builds trust and leads to genuine improvement. And that brings us to our final question for this explainer, one that I want you to really sit with and reflect on in your own life and work. Do you accept your shortcomings, or do you make excuses? The next time you are called out on a flaw, an incomplete project, or a missing back half of the horse, how will you react? Will you build a complex defense to protect your ego, or will you have the humility to pick up the brush and finish the job? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and stay focused.